on a request to apply for an urban transportation planning grant to conduct a study of Highway 160 to determine what changes need to be made at some of the intersections to make them safer. The grant would pay 90% with a local match of 10% shared with the city, county, and the school system. Tony mentioned the public safety communications upgrades. TDEC will announce probably this week that it plans to close the pool at Panther Creek State Park permanently. The cost of the repair for the pool, which is 36 years old, is estimated at $500,000. And TDEC's going to have about $425,000 to develop another amenity for visitors. A public meeting space, or excuse me, a public meeting will take place later this month to get public input.
Are you saying that Panther Creek Park will have no swimming pool?
Correct. And Tony, I did suggest when I got the call from TDEC that they contact the city about what the community center is going to offer, so they don't duplicate services. So.
Yes, the community center will have an indoor pool.
Indoor pool?
Indoor.
And now, will it have a splash pad too? I'm thinking it will, right?
Yes.
And I told them that, so, because that came up in the conversation too. So, our COVID numbers have been up and down. There was a time in the last month or so that there were no hospitalizations at all, but they've climbed back up to double digits now. The regional health department should announce later this month the hiring of a new director for the Hamilton County Health Department. And Tony was mentioning the strategic plan for the Parks and Rec for the city is we've applied for a state grant. It's ARP money to do some major renovations at Cherokee Park, and including the campground, putting sewer in the campground. So that's all I got.
Well, you have anything to add? Anybody have any other questions? Bill? Marshall?
So I totally agree with Bill that the upgrade to Cherokee Park would be greatly welcome. That's, we always get a lot of inquiries about campground space in the community. Panther Creek seems to stay full, so anything we can do to improve campground facilities are very much welcome. For me, on the chamber side, the Chamber Transportation Committee has discussed potential changes on Highway 160, and we will vehemently fight any traffic signals on that because that is a bypass. We tried to stick a traffic signal on 25 at Walmart, and you saw what happened and what we ended up with today. And I don't want to say it's a disaster, but we're making roundabouts to drive 5 feet across a drive now. 160 would be the same. You would put fully loaded transfer trucks on an uphill incline at a red light going east. So you would have very much the same situation we had on 25. So it'd be a 10-year solution, and then we'll have a disaster again. Our suggestion will be right turn only on to 160 from those intersections, and you go down and make a J-turn. If you want red lights, you can take that option of turning right or left out of your area and coming down to Morris Boulevard. So there's plenty of red lights that direction. You don't have to take 160. Fortunately, we've got multiple roads in our town that run parallel both directions. So to us, 160 is that bypass meant for business and trucking traffic. And we appreciate the safety concerns there, but the safety easy fix is not let people cross traffic, go right turns only, coming out of those side streets. So TDOT has been pretty big on those J-turns lately, so that was kind of will be the chamber's push from that. I know there's some pushes for red lights and things like that, but long term, we know red lights are not real effective there. Industrially, we've seen some, I think we've talked about this, Greenworks is moving, they're moving equipment right now, installing equipment. So they'll look to be in production hopefully by the spring. So they're also looking at some additional acreage in town to kind of show off those products, which will be interesting to see. There's a lot of connotations in the history of battery powered products, and many of you may have those. And the technology they've got, they say it's changed. Reliability is a lot greater. The duration of batteries. So that's kind of exciting that they're wanting to have a little area to show that product off in town. And the show off, what I call show off area, will be mainly toward buyers. So your Lowe's, your Home Depot, your Tractor Supplies of the world would send executives in to come in and test out those products, to order those for larger national retailers. So that's neat to have that in the community. That's good for hotel motel tax, because the more visitors we have in, it's good for tourism. And tourism is defined for anyone that traveled more than 50 miles for over one night of travel. So business travel is tourism travel, by national definition. So that's important to remember as well, is we get these business visitors in, that's just as valuable as a tourist that comes here for the park or something like that. The other one we announced was in the airport park, something creative. Brainchild Creative, and we talked about that one. I think they make the mascot uniforms for, say, a University of Kentucky or Wake Forest or North Carolina State. For some reason, they're located in the state of Tennessee and they've not made UTs. So it's one of those shop local things we need to pitch. So they also make your, right now in Pigeon Forge, you see the Christmas trees along the streets. They make those. They make a lot of things for Dollywood, Disney, a lot of your animatronic type things. Mini golf. If you go play putt-putt, you see these dinosaurs and all these, they make a lot of that. So it's a neat, diverse company to fill in existing buildings. It was the former Schwann's building. So basically, that was just where they warehouse to come to your house to sell you ice cream and frozen foods and those things. So to get some manufacturing use in there is pretty good use of that property. We are seeing a lot of new prospects. Most of them want 200,000 to 400,000 square foot existing buildings, and those just don't exist in Tennessee at this time. And the concern, I've talked with some developers about building those. It's going to take a year to get the steel, another year to build it. So you're looking, late 2023 before those buildings are in our community, and who knows what the market's going to be by then. If we had them today, it'd be a little easier sale, but to wait 2 years to have it on the market, most people aren't confident that our market will be the same today. So we are seeing a lot of solar projects lately, significantly large ones. And I was in Nashville talking to some people from the state at the end of last week, and their comments were, why all the Chinese and South Korean solar projects are looking. Well, I said, well, yeah, the U.S. is pushing, clean energy, and they said, no, the federal government and all this money's put out billions of dollars for solar companies. So they're all chasing the incentives to be in the U.S. right now. So that's the only concern when you get those projects that locate for high incentives, is how long do they last in the community? Do they come for the incentives, use up the useful life of those incentives, and then move along to a lower cost country to produce, or will they stay? And from our look at solar studies, it takes an acre to generate a megawatt, and that's not a lot of power. So being the third smallest county in the state, it takes a lot of acreage to generate enough power to sustain a community, for example. We talked, about electric vehicles at the end of the week, and the first comment was, if we all converted to electric a day, the United States doesn't generate enough electricity to power electric vehicles alone, much less what we do in our factories and our homes and all that. So the infrastructure is just not existing today for the push we're kind of making. So it's kind of interesting to see when we're going to hit that pinch point, have to back up and punt a little bit. But solar's kind of shown that you take a lot of acreage, and it's more of a feel-good thing for our large Fortune 50s of the world. They want to feel good that they're solar. They won't buy the land to put it on. They'll buy RECs from utility companies. So, for example, they'll ask Morristown Utilities to go out and buy 200 acres, put solar on it, generate 200 megawatts. And 200 megawatts is, 12, 44. That's a pretty good size manufacturer over a year. I don't know what Mali is, but you're probably in that realm. And you look at taking 200 acres away just to power one company. Our community doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of acres to give away to put up solar panels to power 10 companies. So for us, you can really tell that's not that efficient. Like I said, it's so inefficient, most large companies won't put it on their own property. They want a utility or a third party to go out and do the work, and then they'll buy the RECs, meaning, oh, we're solar, we're green, when really they're not. They just buy and pay for for power off these panels.
Let me ask you a question. If you come down Lincoln Avenue to the corner where Jackson and Lincoln, and you take a right on Jackson and head back up in town, on the right, there looks like there's a series of solar panels. And it looked like they're in the backyard of some guy's house. And it's the first house where the Lincoln Avenue Apartments property. And I didn't know, it looks like way too much for that little house. But I wondered, is
It's
that
probably
some
not.
guy bought it, or is?
Yeah, that's probably it. So you can buy the home kits.
Is that what that is, a home kit?
Yeah, probably so. And the challenge is, even with a big home kit, it's probably still not enough to power his home. It looks like a lot, but it's probably not.
I just thought it looked so out of place, I wondered.
Now, the
what
way
was
TVA
going
did
on.
it, used to, you could, if you wanted to say give 10 acres of your land, or you wanted to put solar on your land, unless you wanted the expense of the batteries and all the expertise of doing it, which some people can do themselves, you still had to put it back on the grid. You basically sell your power to TVA, and then they would sell you power back at a discounted rate. They quit doing that because they said the power they were generating, or say your home guy was generating on the grid, was kind of unreliable. And what that means, I mean, I just think of you generate power and you feed it to them, but supposedly power has quality to it, and it was much lower quality when your home guys were doing it. So TVA stopped the program where they would give you discounts for generating. What you found was, say like a Molly could put solar all over their roof. It wouldn't generate enough to run their plant, but they could sell it back to TVA and get, 7-8 cents a kilowatt hour, and they're probably paying $5. So they could net a little bit over the power bill. But TVA quit that program a few years ago. But yeah, it takes kind of a lot. There was one off 25E that used to do some solar, and they had it on their roof, and talking to the guys, it was good at the time because USDA had some incentives, and we have some of that downtown. If you look at an aerial of downtown buildings, there's a lot of solar. It's a good project if the government will help pay to put the panels up and pay for the panels, and if you can get your initial costs offset, it's a little more valuable.
And that's what happened downtown.
Correct. Yeah, those were USDA grants.
Was there any discussion, and Tony, you may know more about this, about installing solar at landfills or anything like that, using that land, say closed landfills? Or
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. To me, that's about the best sense of the usable land that you've got.
I don't know that we've talked about it here at all, but I think that makes sense because you can't do anything else with it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question about the traffic on the school project on Martin Luther King. The street that comes off of Sulphur Springs up to the Jenkins business and I think the Trent business, is that a city-owned street?
I'd have to ask.
I don't know for sure. I don't think so.
I
The
don't
one that
think
comes
it is.
off Sulphur Springs?
Yes,
There is one, and it doesn't go all the way through. Now that, Rick Eldridge and I met with Paul Brown and TDEC out there,
Right.
and they were saying that is a public street. They were
Okay.
pointing to that.
It looks like a driveway, but it could be.
Yes.
but, I was just wondering if that might be an option to take care of some of that school traffic.
Now, what Dr. Perry's telling me is that the buses won't go on to 160. They'll use Morris Boulevard.
Okay.
So,
But that doesn't count the mommies and daddies that are driving and dropping off.
right,
Yeah.
And
exactly.
even with a J turn, you could have a big backup
Yeah.
on 160 with the lane.
Yeah.
That's why we need this study done.
Yeah.
But I think
understand
with
why.
this study, looking at that road and the connection between that and the high school makes sense. So.
There's the main intersections are Martin Luther King, Sulphur Springs Road, and 25E. Those where, in 2 of those 3, we've had fatalities. So,
Marshall, how are we doing on the international prospects? Europe, Asia, are they back in business?
Not a lot. We're seeing more Asia lately, just because of solar, but not much at all out of Europe. Talked to Benedict a while back. She said they're gonna try to probably get over in the spring. If, you know, if the variants and everything don't really crop up, they're gonna try to get back over in the spring and get everything ramped up
Any
again.
prospects on their city building?
Not really. The guys that bought that were investors, and they're cleaning out the building, gonna sell equipment, and then double the price is the price we have at the moment for what they paid for it. So everybody that's looked at it's basically said we're not paying $10 million for a building older than Morristown itself. Jody does have a new neighbor. So one of the homes in the park was moved Friday, Thursday. So the smaller of the houses, there were 2 houses that they bought with the property. They will keep the larger house, and the smaller brick rancher, they moved it. So it is now Jody's neighbor, behind Jody's house. So,
Let me ask
Yeah.
a question you have before you.
Let me ask, I've got another question I want to ask. It's not on the agenda, you haven't mentioned it.
yeah.
But we're dealing with it tonight in committee meeting. But the Bellwood property development along 11E,
Yeah.
how far up 11E will that development go?
I think the plan shows all the way to the next red light at Kidwell Ridge.
Kidwell's Ridge, okay, all right. You've answered my question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You have also before you the meeting schedule for 2022 meetings, and the first meeting will be a full board meeting on Monday, January the 10th. Let me ask you this question, if you think this would be of value, if you don't think it would be of value, it's just another wild idea I've got, but we have mentioned 2 or 3 things today, and there may be others that you may be more concerned with, that involve state projects, for example. I'm not sure we know where Tony mentioned that the contract is to be let on the first phase of 11E, going towards the East Tennessee Progress Center in Molly next fall about this time. Well, that's a pretty good time, and it hadn't taken about 15 years to get that done. Type thing. We didn't say anything about the project of the 81 exit to the Progress Center, that they're supposed to fix that. They're coming into off of 81 towards the Progress Center. That was supposed to be let 100 years ago, and obviously nothing's been done about that. And there may be other things that we need. Let me say the other one. When you say that they're going to close and not rebuild the pool at Panther Creek State Park. Panther Creek State Park, since its development in the late 60s, obviously has been a sore subject to the state of Tennessee, because we can't ever get anything done, except they do grade off a place where people can camp. We've got no cabins. We've asked for cabins at least 10 or 15 years ago, and they've never been built. Swimming pools not going to be rebuilt, and there may be other projects. And what I'm asking you, if you want to do or not do for our January 10th meeting, that we have, we might invite, the state Senator Sutherland, and, what's the representative,
We got Rick and, when does Jerry,
Eldridge Rig.
when do we split and get represented by both officially?
huh?
See, we will have another state representative as well, out of Cobb County. So Cobb County will cover what, Russellville, Whitesburg,
Union Heights.
And part of
Union
it,
Heights, Witt,
But what,
be Jeremy Faison.
what I'm asking is there any value, is it a waste of time that we invite whoever the representatives are and Senator Sutherland this meeting and express, have reports to them of the county's concern and the city's concern about either the state park or the highways to make sure that they know what our definite interest is, and there may be other projects other than the ones that I've mentioned, that you wanna give some thought to, or maybe you wanna forget, I don't know. I'm just asking a question, would that be of value, to make sure that our representatives know what our priorities are? And as far as Panther Creek Park is concerned, it's been a chore.
Jack, I wondered if what you're asking about, don't we also have the chamber has a legislative action committee that kind of in January, prior to the reconvening of the General Assembly, sort of has one of these meetings with that, whoever that committee chair is, and wouldn't that be similar to that meeting where we meet with the legislators before they reconvene and share with them what our concerns are? Would that?
Are you saying invite the chair of that committee also?
I just have to say, whenever we have that committee scheduled in January, that would.
Not do it here, but do it at that legislative committee meeting. Do it at the chamber meeting.
Let's know in the past, the chamber's had a legislative committee that meets with our elected state reps prior to.
You're saying do
the
it there instead of here?
Yes. Yes. I mean, is there one planned? Has there been one talked about?
I know they've talked about it, especially with the change out with having a new state rep. You know, Rick and Jerry Sexton, I guess, will have to run for the other position. So, I mean, it's really possible we could not have a state rep that lives in Hamlin County that represents Hamlin County. They could live in two much smaller counties but represent Hamlin County.
Well, Red Panther home, the other one has a home in Hamlin.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Well, and of course, we've got a highway committee, but I think whether it's here or pretty early in January, that we bring before our legislators or potential legislators, if you wanna call it that, and ask them pretty specifically to work on whatever projects that we feel like that are important to Morristown and Hamlin County. I think that just yesterday, that intersection going into the Progress Center, and we're in the Cracker Barrel, that entrance going out there. If you ever run in, if you're going that way and you turn in to go to the Cracker Barrel, and there's a truck coming into the industrial park, you damn near have to get off in the right of way for the truck to get in there. And there's no way for small cars, anybody in a car to get in there. And I think we need to know about that, and I think the representatives need to be asked specifically to make sure that this, extension to, Molly on 11, that it doesn't get delayed and that, all that kind of stuff. And, again, Panther Creek State Park, needs help. It's needed help for 40 years, type thing, and now, they're closing the one thing that they need to rebuild or do something, in my opinion. And there may be other things they could do out there, cabins. We asked them 15 years ago to build 11 or 12 cabins out there. You go to other state parks and they've got these amenities.
They just built the new lodge at Fall Creek Falls. You know, they had a lodge, they tore it all down, rebuilt it with
Yeah,
conference center.
yeah, and ours
It just
is,
is amazing.
pardon the expression, like a bee at homecoming. Panther Creek Park is, it has been, I don't know why it has been, but we need help there. And, whether it's meeting, what you're saying is you'd rather that meeting be where at the chamber, Government Relations Committee, meets and invites those people to a meeting in early January. But I think if we go that way, Gary, I don't disagree with that. But I think that you people in the room as leaders of the governing bodies need to support those efforts that we want to bring to those people, because we need to be united in the direction we're going, and we get nothing. And there may be other things except those 3 or 4 things that I've mentioned, that you guys may have on your mind.
Now, Tony, did you say that the intersection at Progress Parkway, that's gonna be bid next summer, right?
Let me give me those back, let's see.
That's what I wrote down.
Yes, this summer.
Okay, so that intersection to ETPC is gonna be bid in the summer, so,
Well, they say that,
okay.
okay? And then all of a sudden, it gets pushed some. I don't know how they get pushed, but guys, that fixing 11E towards Greenville, is not a new conversation. If you've been around, it's been talked about since, I reckon, Columbus was here, type thing. And it's just for our growth and development. In other words, I realize we're the 3rd smallest county in the state, and I understand that very well. But I think it's critically important that our state representatives know what you guys want done and what the Chamber Government Relations Committee wants done. And hopefully they'll carry that to the governor. And
Well, there's some concern on 11E because, you know, before we had some federal funding to pay for that, at least the first section. The last I talked to our senator, there wasn't money for funding to pay for the road expansion itself. We still needed construction funding. And I said, but no, we already had that federal money. Well, that got moved somewhere else because it didn't move quick enough. And I said, it wasn't Morristown that didn't move quick enough. If you remember, we've been in Nashville quite often asking for this growth. It's TDOT that's delayed. Well, TDOT moved your money somewhere else. So it looks like we're gonna have to fight again even for the first section. They may have all the right of way, but I don't think they're on pace to construct the thing anytime soon. I don't think there's construction money in the budget.
they don't have all the right of way yet.
No,
There's some property owners that are probably going to court.
In the location of one of our industries, all of you know, we had a problem with the state, that they said no to, several people, several very important people, about the funds for that. And the only reason we were finally successful in locating, my opinion, that plant is the Economic Development Commissioner himself. Went over and spent the night, had dinner with the president of the company, or we'd have lost the plant. In my opinion, maybe you people disagree, but our state representatives agree with us, but they need to speak louder. And I'll say that again. We don't have any problem with us current state representatives about issues, but they need to speak louder and harder when they get to Nashville, or we kind of get pushed out the door. And I think that meeting, however, Gary, you think that meeting ought to be orchestrated, and I certainly think that you people who represent city government, county government need to make sure they hear that, and that's very important. Any other business to come before